Hi, this is Gary with MACMOST.com. Today let's take a look at using the built-in Safari Password Manager. MACMOST is brought to you thanks to a great group of more than 800 supporters. Go to MACMOST.com/Patreon. There you can read more about the Patreon campaign, join us, and get exclusive content and course discounts. So to keep all of your online accounts secure, you should be using strong, unique passwords for each site. To do this, you really need to be using a password manager. Now you don't need to get a third-party password manager as you've got one built into the Safari browser on your Mac, and it also talks to the Safari browsers on your other devices. So let's take a look at how it works. Here I have an example registration page like you're going to sign up for a new website. Usually you're asked for your email as your user ID. Then you're asked to enter a password and verify it. Now in Safari, if you click here to enter in a password, you may be prompted right away asking if you want to generate a random password. But even if you're not, you'll look on the right here and see this little key button. Click that and you can request a password. So let's suggest a new password and you can see how Safari generates a random password and enters it in here, both in the password and in the confirmation field. It's so important that you use a computer generated random password like this. Anything you come up with in your head is going to be far more likely to be guessed than an actual random password. The only downside is it's hard to memorize and enter a password like this. But with a password manager you never have to. The password manager, in this case the Safari browser itself, is going to enter the password for you. You don't have to memorize it. You never have to type it. So we see how Safari gave us a randomly generated password pretty easily. But how do we store it? Well, you don't have to do anything additional to store it. All you need to do is finish the form and then Safari will remember this password. So now let's say we go back to the site and we have to log in again. I'm going to click here to enter my email. You can see Safari recognizes that this is the place to enter in my ID and my password. And it actually shows me a list of passwords associated with the site, including the one I just entered in. So I just select this email address and it enters in the email address as my ID and the password right here. And now I click login and I can log in. I didn't even have to see the password, let alone type it. So where can you see a list of your passwords? Well, if I go to Safari, Preferences, and then I click on Passwords at the top, then I have to enter in my user account password. And now I see a list of passwords that Safari has stored. You can see the username here and the password is hidden. Here's that one I just created. By selecting it, it actually shows me the password. I can double click it or click Details here to make changes if I want. Also notice I have the ability to add manually a password. And I can also remove an entry there. Now what would happen if I already have an account at a site but I haven't yet stored it in Safari? When I go to sign in, it'll remember that password as well. So I'll enter in a user ID and I'll type the password that I already know. And I'm going to type a weak password here on purpose to demonstrate. And I'll click Login. Now you get this prompt here asking whether or not you want Safari to save the password. So I'm going to click Save Password. If I clicked Not Now, it would ask me again the next time I logged in. But the other option there is to never bother me about saving this password ever. Now when I go to Safari Preferences Passwords, you can see it's saved it there. Notice I have this little yellow caution symbol here. Why? Because I entered in a very weak password there. And if I click on it you can see this password is easily guessed. It'll also give me other security alerts, like if the password I'm using is insecure because it's currently being used to break into accounts. In other words, I didn't create a unique password, I'm reusing one, or perhaps my account itself has been compromised. Whenever you see one of these caution symbols, you should change the password on the website. To do that, just go to the website and go through whatever the process is for that site to change your password. When you do that, Safari is going to prompt you to save the new password, just like I showed you before when you used a password at a site for the first time. And by the way, if you click the option not to save the password, this is what you get. It saves the site with no username and password set to never saved. If you want to reset that so you can save the password later on, all you need to do is select it and then remove. And now you'll be able to save that password the next time you log into that site. So saving a password in Safari protects you in a few different ways. First, it allows you to have a random unique password for each site, which is the most secure way to do passwords. They can be these long random strings of characters because you're saving them in this password manager. You don't have to type them manually. Because let's face it, if we had to type all of our passwords manually, we would probably all use shorter passwords that look like words or dates or names, and we'd probably reuse the same password over and over again. Using a password manager means everyone can be long, random, and unique. This also protects you from phishing attacks. The way a phishing attack works is, say you get an email that seems to be from a website and it tells you there's a problem, you need to log in right away. You click on a link in that email and it takes you to something that looks just like that website. You can't tell it's not. And if you look at the URL, maybe it's even close to the actual URL. Maybe instead of, say in my example here, macmost.net, it's macmost.xyz123.net. And you think you're at the right place. But you're actually at somebody else's website entirely. Then you enter your email address and your password. Now they've captured your ID and password. They've stored it and they're going to go back and try to log into the actual site. How using a password manager like we are here in Safari protects you from that is when you go to a site like macmost.xyz123.net, it will look up the actual site. You can't fool it. So it's looking for xyz123.net and it can't find a password for that site. So it doesn't give you anything here to be able to log in. Now another great thing about storing your passwords in Safari is it syncs across all of your Apple devices using iCloud. To sync the passwords to your other Apple devices, go into System Preferences and then to your Apple ID and make sure Keychain is turned on. The passwords are stored in something called the keychain. You actually have an app on your Mac called Keychain Access that allows you to look at the keychain. But for most users you never have to use that. Just to access the passwords in the Safari preferences. And as long as this keychain functionality in iCloud is turned on, it should sync the passwords to iCloud and then to your other Apple devices like your iPhone or iPad. So when you store a website password, say on your Mac, you also have access to it on your iPhone. So here for instance you see me going to the same site on my iPhone and it prompts me to use the password that I've stored. And also if you go and sign up for a website on your iPhone, it will suggest password and save it so then it's available on your Mac. Also on your iPhone you can go into Settings and there you can go to the Passwords section and find those entries. So if you need to be able to see the password and perhaps copy and paste it into an app or maybe into a different browser, you can. So I'm often asked which password manager you should use on your Mac. And there are a lot of good ones out there. 1Password and LastPass are really good password managers and there are others as well. But for most users, if you're not using a password manager now, start off by just using Safari. Let Safari save your passwords. You get the primary functionality available in all password managers built into your Mac, synced automatically without having to pay for and learn a new app. But if you want, you can still use a third-party password manager and Safari at the same time. That's what I do. When I create a new password at a site, I save it in both 1Password and in the Safari Password Manager. It's easy to do so. It's just 2 clicks instead of 1. And then most of the time I find it easiest just to let Safari enter the password in when I go to log into that site again. But I also know I've got it saved in my other password manager as well. But for most Mac users, if you're not using a password manager now, just start using Safari to save your passwords and let that allow you to have good, strong, unique, random passwords for every website and service you use. If you liked this video, click the thumbs up button below to let me know. I publish new tutorials each weekday. Hit the subscribe button so you don't miss out.